We are a research laboratory looking into alternative propulsion. And to be candid, we're trying to figure out how flying saucers work. He also told me, and this is kind of interesting, that he was tasked with doing research on UAP for the FBI, and he wanted to come back at a later time to pick my brain about what I know about UFOs.
The following is my conversation with Mark Sokol. Mark is an independent researcher and founder of Falcon Space, a self-funded effort to recreate a variety of breakthrough propulsion experiments focused on scientific accuracy and reproducibility. With years of hands-on technical experience in the hybrid vehicle battery sector, Mark has applied his knowledge and love of engineering to the realm of alternative propulsion and gravity modification in an attempt to fully explore the many reported experimental claims currently in existence. Mark is also the co-founder of APEC, the Alternative Propulsion Engineering Conference, where he brings together subjects and heavy hitters from the science and engineering world. A determined and fascinating guy with a deep interest in alternative propulsion, hoping to improve the world with new technologies. So, the following is my conversation with Mark Sokol. Hi, Mark. Thanks for talking to me. I really appreciate your time. I mean, I was first, obviously, I'm over in the UK. I saw a news article with you with regards to Falcon Space, and I didn't know about it, and I was fascinated by it and did loads of research. And you guys are doing some super interesting stuff. So I wondered if, first of all, you could first kind of talk us through what you guys are doing there and what the goal is, what the plan is.
Okay, so we are a research laboratory looking into alternative propulsion. And to be candid, we're trying to figure out how flying saucers work. We believe that this technology has already been discovered, and has been covered up. Therefore, we're doing this in an open source fashion. And we believe by sharing it with the world, they won't be able to cover it up again. And our end goal is to eventually make a commercial enterprise where we're actually building these crafts for sale.
Okay.
But right now we're in the early stages of R&D. We're looking at work that people have put forward in terms of theories and papers and patents and stuff like that. Just untried ideas, and we're trying them out and publishing our results online, and trying to crack this really tough egg that's been puzzling scientists for the past 100 years.
How did you first get into it? What first kind of piqued your interest in this kind of work? How did it come to creation?
So it started actually with an inquiry into Judaism, the religion I was born into. And after about 25 years of study, I came to the realization that Judaism was, like many other religions, a form of alien worship. Sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, from Arthur C. Clarke. That proved true, but in a much more real fashion than I realized. And once I came to realize that, I was like, holy fuck, like how, what can I do with this, new information? And I decided to start looking into, the anti-gravity research. And it started off as a hobby, as a side interest of mine, and it quickly took over my life and became. It went from an interest to a passion to an obsession to a career. And right now, it's not only a career for me, it's for many people around me. We employ others, and there's lots of people that are so passionate about this field of research. They're willing to come here and work for free just to be a part of this movement that we've created.
Incredible. And I know that from talking to Tim a couple of days ago, he sort of suggested that there's a few ideas out there that could really be something incredibly significant for humanity. And you and the work that you're doing is kind of one of those, very select few in the world, really. And that's pretty impressive and exciting to be part of. I'm interested, actually, just as somebody that's kind of pursuing something that they're passionate about. How does it kind of feel? How does it feel to be in, most people are in jobs that they don't necessarily enjoy, but it pays the bills, it pays, for the car, for the mortgage and what have you. How does it feel to be doing something that you're sort of truly passionate about and fascinated by?
Well, you're probably not going to like this, but when even if you're truly passionate about something, you get excited. Humans get excited from change for the better. They get excited. They get the dopamine running. So when it first started and it was like a big change, oh, wow, I'm going to be doing this really cool research. Very exciting. But eventually it just becomes more of a drab day to day. What's this problem? What's that problem? And if you keep on getting, caught up in all the thoughts of what could happen if this actually works and all that, you get nothing done. So at the end of the day, you do need to get into that, 9 to 5 mindset of just getting these things done, having to-do lists, and for instance, today we were working on getting LabVIEW set up so that certain parameters of our tests can be measured, and that consumed most of the day. So it's little things like this, just setting them up. And a lot of the work we do is stuff that I've never done before, and I don't expect most people have never done this kind of stuff before. So everything is sort of specialized, and you just got to dive into it and try to figure it out.
So let's come on to the stuff that was in the press recently then. So you guys had a visit from the FBI, is that right? Are you able to kind of give us a bit of an insight into what happened?
Oh, yeah. So me and Tom Butler, who's a lab assistant for the last 3 years, we're working on this project called the gravity diode, basically an inertial repulsion concept. And I'm on the lathe machining out a part. And these two people show up, pretty inconspicuous. They knock on the door. They come inside and they ask for Mark Sokol. I'm like, yeah, that's me. And they pull out their badges and say FBI. And I'm like, okay, what do you guys want? And they asked, sort of jokingly, like they were laughing when they said this. They asked if I had any enriched uranium. And I chuckled as well. I'm like, no, we don't have any enriched uranium here. And they're like, don't worry, you're not in trouble. We already know that you don't. We went around the building with a Geiger counter. And if there was enriched uranium here, this place would be as hot as this place would be hot.
Yeah.
And they said that they got a tip off that we have enriched uranium and that it's unprotected. And they had to come and check it out. And I guess they just needed to make that check mark on the box and move on. The guy had already done some research into what we do. He already knew, he'd watched a couple of the YouTube videos. So he wasn't that surprised by what he saw. We do show videos of the inside of the lab all the time. So he probably would have been able to figure out what everything was if he watched enough YouTube videos. He also told me, and this is kind of interesting, that he was tasked with doing research on UAP for the FBI, and he wanted to come back at a later time to pick my brain about what I know about UFOs. And we scheduled a time. He said he was going to show up on Monday. He never showed up, never texted me, never got back to me. But I think that was a big part of the news story, was the fact that he told me that the FBI is investigating UFOs. I'm not sure why the Bureau has any interest in this kind of stuff. I think they're more looking at crimes, I thought, but
yeah, fascinating. There was any part of you that thought that perhaps it was an opportunity to come in and, snoop around and see what you guys were doing from an eyes-on sort of perspective? Or did you believe that they probably did have some kind of tip-off and they had to tick a box?
I think they did have a tip-off, and I think I also know who it possibly was. We do have a disgruntled ex-employee who just wanted to make noise. So it was possibly related to that. And if they wanted to snoop around, they would have just snooped around. They didn't have to show up here with an FBI badge in order to get a tour of the lab.
Right.
And also, even when they were here, they just stood by the door. They didn't even ask to come in or walk around. It's not like we're hiding anything. If they really wanted to learn more, all they had to do is like, share, and subscribe for our videos and watch this podcast. They'll even learn everything that they would want to know.
Yeah. Mark, where did let's jump into UAP then, if that's okay. Where did that start? I mean, did it start kind of around the same kind of time that you had the interest in alternative propulsion, or did that kind of the UAP UFO subject start before then? What kind of piqued your interest in UFOs, really?
It was Judaism. I was trying to figure out what's going on with this religion, because on the one hand, some of the claims that are made are backed up by archaeological evidence. Like the splitting of the sea and Mount Sinai and all that stuff. But on the other hand, the creator of the universe didn't come and free a bunch of slaves from Egypt. And, that part of it didn't make any sense. But parts of it did make sense. So something definitely happened. But on the other hand, you have to read the story at its face value. And if you look at it, just like lots of those TV shows, the Ancient Aliens TV show from History Channel, it dives into a whole bunch of older religions like the Zoroastrian stuff. It stays away from the more controversial ones like Judaism, Islam, Christianity. But if you look at them, the same concept of ancient astronaut theory applies to all those religions as well, and all the other ones out there. Buddhism and Hinduism, all of them involve extraterrestrials with special spacecraft. In Islam, they call it the Barak, which that's what the spaceship that Muhammad flew up into heaven with, or outer space. Barak, interestingly enough, means lightning. In Judaism, we talked about the Merkaba, which is the chariot, which was powered by Chashmal, which means electricity. And in Christianity, there's the stars. The star of Bethlehem that they're following, all of these celestial things that are going up into the heavens, which is outer space. And that mixed with all of the some of the books that I read. One in particular was A Day After Roswell by Philip J. Corso. He's the second in command at the Pentagon, and he's writing about how he had a secret desk full of UFO parts that he disseminated out to American industry in order to push technology forward. And if a guy like that, with those kind of credentials, is saying that this is real, it's definitely real. The only question is, what's happening with the technology? Why don't we have these flying cars that we were promised? And I started off with a book from Paul LaViolette, Secrets of Anti-Gravity Propulsion. And that led me to T. Townsend Brown's work, parallel plate capacitors, asymmetric capacitors, creating thrust and stuff like that, and which led me to a YouTube channel, which is very famous in this area, Alien Scientist, with Jeremy Reese. And he's been acting like a lightning rod for this entire field of inquisitive research and bringing all the people together. And through him, I met many others and started the APEC research group, which is the Alternative Propulsion Engineering Conference. To learn more about that at altpropulsion.com, ALT Propulsion. And we have now bi-weekly meetings live, either on YouTube or on Zoom, where we're going into different topics and conversations about UFOs and UAP, reverse engineering, propulsion, experiments. There's lab updates, several different labs that are working on different projects, give their updates, and we try to get as much cross-pollination, different ideas going around in order to push this science forward as quickly as possible.
Brilliant. Do you think that from your kind of experience and your obviously you're in this field now, what we're seeing online and from the government and from the Navy pilots, do you think we are seeing a mixture of non-human technology and government reverse engineered technology, or do you think that this is all non-human? And in terms of the real compelling cases, the Navy pilots are seeing things like that, the gimbal, go fast, things like that. What's kind of your feeling on it? Do you get a sense that this is some government tech that they've managed to crack something, or not?
Okay, you used a lot of very ambiguous words there. Government tech. No, it is not government tech. Joe Biden doesn't have one of these in his garage. It's military industrial complex tech. And by that, I mean Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. We're talking about Northrop Grumman, and many others that have cracked the secrets of anti-gravity propulsion back in the 50s. So this cover-up is over 70 years old. It's never really been a government cover-up. It was always handed over to the military industrial complex. The government lost control of it around Eisenhower. And a private industry has a much better capability of keeping something like this secret rather than government. Although government, they have been working together. This is getting all into the conspiratorial side of things. These are things that are it's hard to know, and when real information is leaked to the public through disgruntled employees, or somebody like Boyd Bushman, or or Philip J. Corso, then what they tend to do is they tend to have false information that's put forward as well. So it's hard to tell what's real and what's not. But from what I gather, most of the craft that we're seeing today are man-made. Back in the 60s and the 50s, it wasn't so. Those were mostly extraterrestrial, but we've come to the point where we're actually in control of the airspace and space around Earth and around most of the planets in our solar system, to a point where if a new extraterrestrial race comes in that doesn't know what's going on over here and cover up, then they're made aware of that Earth is not a place to hang out. I also believe that the reason why we're seeing so much UFOs in the media is not because that they're showing up more often. They're actually showing up less often nowadays. It's because there's a treaty with extraterrestrials that stated that there was certain benchmarks that needed to be met in order for certain parts of the treaty, certain trade agreements to come through. And one of those is the world knowing of their presence. And the governments or the powers that be are trying to slowly acclimate us to this new reality. And you'll see every time there's a step forward, like a major announcement, there's always going to be that step back. There's always going to be some way for the for the debunkers, something for them to latch onto, to keep a little bit of ambiguity and say, oh, maybe it's not real, and keep people from panicking.
Yeah, so that was going to be my next question. Really, was the change in sort of narrative with the government. It's interesting. So you mentioned that that kind of, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that kind of hysteria that I've heard, that this is the reason that people think this isn't being disclosed, is because there'll be mass panic and hysteria. So therefore, this is a sort of a slow drip feed. Do you think that we're likely to see, so things like the UAP Disclosure Act and things like that, that are kind of being talked about in Congress at the moment, and potentially may come into law quite soon? Do you think that that's going to have a significant impact on disclosure, or do you think that this is just going through the motions and it's kind of, we're not going to get a great deal, one step forward, one step back sort of thing?
I mean, that's kind of speculative for me to answer something like that, but yeah, I do have like a 10-mile high sort of knowledge of that legislation. I think it's sort of allowing whistleblowers to come forward without risk of persecution. I think that will push a lot of people, to open up about what they've seen and what's happened. and it's at a point of no return already.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not able to. They're not able to put it back in the bag.
Yeah. Yeah. My understanding was that the UAP disclosure part, UAP Disclosure Act, suggested that or stated that private companies, private corporations had to, if they had non-human intelligence, non-human biology, I can't even say the word, excuse me.
Biological intelligence,
Yeah,
biological entities,
absolutely.
EBEs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and technology that's non-human, that sort of thing. But that's private companies and government departments, etc., etc.
Well, if they're able to force private companies to divulge anything, then you'll see an avalanche of information, because the cover up has been in private hands. It hasn't really been that much government. This isn't Joe Biden hiding aliens in his closet. This is Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, and the likes, Boeing to a certain extent. And some of those craft that we're seeing are actually made by American companies.
And obviously, they're able to be exempt from FOIA and stuff, aren't they? So they can keep that
Yeah, yeah,
well hidden.
they're the perfect place to keep stuff like that hidden.
Yeah. Just coming back to your so the work that you're doing, do you think that you're kind of close to anything that could kind of match what we're seeing? Do you think that you're obviously I don't want to go too into if you've got things that you're working on that are kind of sort of
Proprietary.
yeah, proprietary. That's the word I'm looking for. But have you got a sort of sense that we're actually going in the right direction and we may be onto something?
Yes. So of course, I'm biased because I have to believe that in order to be excited about the work I'm doing. But one thing we're looking at, which is pretty exciting, and all indicators say that there's got to be something here, is a process called dynamic nuclear orientation. And it's basically the cooling down of subatomic mayhem that's happening in the core of an atom, orienting subatomic particle spins and creating this state of coherent matter. It's a very unique state of matter that is not seen naturally. And we believe by making this state of matter, we can make objects free from the restraints of inertia along the plane and axis of the spin. So subatomic particles are spinning around, and they're not just spinning nicely, their axis is wobbling, and the wobbles have many different wobbles going around in a very hectic manner and in a lot of different ways simultaneously. And when you move things through space, you're changing those wobbles. That's where inertia is being stored in the wobbles of subatomic particles. By orienting the subatomic particles, you're not actually changing the amount of energy or the amount of mass in the craft. All you're doing is shielding it from the effects of mass, of change of wobble, by orienting it, and then it's free to move just like a regular gyroscope along the plane and axis of spin, which is how flying saucers work. They're able to do a 90-degree turn at 10,000 miles an hour, but they're not able to do a barrel roll because that would require the full amount of inertial change to the full weight to the craft, and they don't have much of a thruster on board. They rely on making the craft weightless and then really small thrusters in order to move it around.
Incredible. So, what would be the kind of application to the to our lives? If you were able to kind of crack that, and you had this technology, proprietary technology that you could kind of mass produce in effect, how would you see that for a consumer? How would you see that kind of helping us and improving our lives? And where do you see that going?
The effects would be pretty dramatic. Airplanes would become a thing of the past. Space travel would be a lot cheaper. And by a lot cheaper, I mean a lot cheaper. Cheaper than anything that Elon Musk has ever imagined possible. And open pit mining on Earth would be out of business because we'd be able to go to the asteroid belt and bring back huge chunks of already purified metal, for our factories here on Earth. Space tourism would become a thing. I think cargo ships would probably become a thing of the past. It would be cheaper to travel through space than it would to be to burn a bunch of hydrocarbons and move across the ocean. it would change a lot of things. One thing it won't change, I don't believe this will ever change. This will ever take over the family automobile, and the reason for that, and this is just speculative, but from all of the accounts that we've seen of people who got near flying saucers, there was always something detrimental that happened to them. Either it be burns or sickness, radiation poisoning of various sorts. And that's our experience with this technology as well. Working here in a lab, we have to keep ourselves shielded. Literally, a tinfoil hat is PPE here at the lab. Actually, got one right over here. This is actually a real tinfoil hat. This is made out of tin, not aluminum. But we have full suits that cover us, made out of like a silver mesh material. And if you don't wear it, you'll get a headache when dealing with X-band microwaves. So it's not. It's sort of like a helicopter. The helicopter is never going to take over. Instead of your Tesla to go to the supermarket. It's just you need too much space to land the damn thing. It's too inconvenient. What it could do is it'll take over more like, buses or trains or airplanes. Those kind of things would probably be supplemented by these flying saucer craft and eventually phased out altogether.
Incredible. So just hugely disruptive technology.
It would disrupt a lot of technologies. I don't think it will disrupt the automobile industry, just because you're never going to get that point to point that you get with an automobile with these kind of spacecraft. Even if we perfected it, I still don't see it happening. I see it more of a, you go to a spaceport and everyone is inside of a Faraday cage sort of holding area, and which connects up to the craft. You go inside and then they're taken off all at once or something like that, just to keep people away from the radiation that's on the outside.
I'm conscious of your time, and I know you guys are super busy and you got loads to do. So I'm going to wrap it up there if that's okay. And thanks again so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And take care of yourself, man. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Live long and prosper.